my name is Chris. I am the founder and creative director of Tithe Design. So we're a capacity building firm. We use the lens of design and strategy as a way to support organizations in the social sector. We're a mission-driven company that will only work with organizations that have a social mission in some way, shape, or form. So all of our clients are city agencies, nonprofits. We work with a lot of cultural institutions, a lot of libraries. And almost all of our work is built around and with community engagement. A lot of our projects and the things that we do are looking at how we can design with, not for, which is, I think, a big premise that you guys are talking a lot about in this context. But that's very much at the heart of what we do. So these are a couple examples of different clients that we've worked with and different types of engagements. From the one on the far left is that left? That's right to you. Okay. Anyways, we work with Brooklyn Public Library and 3x3 to do a street engagement project to understand the needs of the neighborhood. We've worked with Department of Education on their CS for All initiative. In the last year, we've led 30 workshops with principals, admins, people in the tech industry to try to learn from bottom up about what needs are in education around CS. Other projects that we work with state agencies, we actually work with Shanti and her team on that, and then we do a ton of work with CBOs and nonprofits. A lot of our work comes from the lens of not only leading these public experiences, but looking at how we can also train organizations to lead them themselves. We really believe in that idea of capacity building and how can we support other agencies doing the work and not having to hire a consultant. So the project that I'm going to talk a little bit about today is actually AIGA New York. So we were approached back in January, I think, of this year. AIGA New York was putting together an initiative called Design and Inclusion. Yes? Diversity and Inclusion. Okay. I haven't had enough coffee today. Diversity and inclusion. And the intention of this initiative was to learn and listen from AIGA members about their needs and issues and where there are opportunities to support bringing more diversity and inclusion into the world of graphic design and design itself. So what our role was in regards to this project, I'm sorry that photo is a little off kilter at the top, but was to help support not only planning and leading these experiences, but really the strategy behind it and thinking through why do we want to engage and why do members from the community want to be in the room as well. Really thinking through that process, because that's a really important tenet of community engagement. What are they getting out of this experience? Not just we want to learn from them, but what do they want to learn? So the first event that we did was actually a town hall. Truly, I do not define town halls as public engagement. That is a one-directional conversation. But it was a great starting point for this initiative. It was a great place where many members of the community were able to just get comfortable with conversations. And we did hear a lot from members in the audience in regards to their challenges and where they saw opportunities. We didn't see as much dialogue between individuals, but it was a great to start understanding where some of the challenges and the issues were. One of the things that we did do was think about a very simple activity that we could collect data from those in the audience. Big part of the experience was trying to understand who was there, why were they there, why does diversity matter to them, and what does a diverse and inclusive design community look like. It was a great starting point for us to understand just at the high level what were some of the topics that were in the room. We actually had about 80 to 100 people there, and it gave us just that kind of starting point in regards to our next workshop. The following workshop was held at GA, and we had about 40 or 50 people there. And this was diving much more deeper into the conversations around what does diversity and inclusion look like? What is that vision? But what are the barriers holding people back in regards to getting to that vision? It was interesting. We asked individuals to, first off, think from their own perspective. A big part of public engagement and really working with different stakeholders is to make sure that everyone's voice is included equally. So we provided a lot of times for individuals to take reflection and think by themselves before opening it up to the group and kind of looking where those common themes were and building on top of the conversation. What was interesting in this experience was that we were able to really see that there was 3 main areas of challenge around diversity and where the individuals were affected. So it was first individuals entering the design field. What are the barriers to entry in regards to that, in regards to education, in regards to economics, in regards to even the idea of design being a profession that is accepted in the family home? Then we heard a lot about challenges around once you've entered the field. So what are those challenges in regards to culture fit or biased in hiring? We We heard a lot of challenges in regards to that. And the third big thing that was really interesting was hearing about the design field itself. So in design, where are there biases that are coming in? Where are people not actually making the design inclusive for all and being very one-directional in regards to the imagery, the language, and so on? So it was a great starting point for us to really understand what were the issues. From this, we internally identified that there was a core 15 issues. And I apologize, they're way over there on that tiny screen. But what was important for us with this initiative was to understand within these 15 issues, where were the starting points? What are the things that matter most to people today? Where are the opportunities that we can support? So this workshop was designed a little bit differently. Again, we wanted to find opportunities where individuals get to think individually and come together as a group, but it was really about prioritization. In public engagement experiences, prioritization is the hardest thing to do, right? So how to make sure that people don't move into that group think lens, right? It's easier just to agree sometimes and move on. We really want to leverage the differences and support people moving together. So through a series of individuals where people started on their own, then they worked in groups of 3s, groups of 6, we got it into groups of 12, they were actually able to define what is the issue that mattered to them most. And they did that through a series of starting with writing, reframing, so on and so forth. And then following that, we actually supported the group to dive deeper into what is causing that issue. So interesting, the challenge of diversity is something that you hear us talk a lot about today, right? It's top of mind, it's very much in the news, but a lot of it's surface level, and a lot of individuals found it very difficult to dive into what's behind that challenge and really understanding kind of what's underneath, what are the systemic challenges. So it was interesting for us, and this was something we noticed from workshop to workshop, of where there were opportunities. We were working with a social justice educator that may be able to support the community building the vocabulary. They definitely had the lens and they were just not as comfortable with the words. So finding different ways that could support them to communicate a little bit deeper. The outcome of this workshop was that the group identified, one, those core issues that they saw as starting points for AIGA to support, but also where the intervention points were. What was core about this project and what's coming out of this project is actually an RFP, request for proposal, if somebody doesn't know what that is. But the intention, AIGA is going to, in the next month, maybe, 6 months, I'm looking at Letitia, and about that. The timeline's moving a little, so I don't know the answer. But they're actually going to put out an RFP that includes all of the information from this workshop to identify where there might be opportunities for people to apply and say, I want to support that issue. There's going to be funding behind it, and AIGA will support them, AIGA New York, will support them in that process. But that's a big part of the intention of this experience, not just to gather information and say, great, AIGA New York knows where the challenges are. It's taking those challenges and actually looking at where are there ways that we can support them. What does that look like? So this workshop helped to identify a set of, I think we came up with in total about 9 different challenges and a series of intervention points. So where to start? If you're interested in looking at the challenges around the existing workforce, we heard a lot about focusing on hiring practices, culture fit, talking a little bit about bias and so on. So it gave some starting points.
Something on the web about in a series of near us. Start looking at the challenges.
It's all good. We all find things on the web. Siri's really excited. All good. So where was I? Oh, don't worry. Yeah, so I guess that's kind of where we are. This project is ongoing. What's going to happen once the RFP comes out is we're actually going to do one more workshop. A big goal of this initiative was to make sure that different members okay, I'm winning. Yeah, I'll go first, sure. Yeah. So,
what's interesting is it's research and engagement.
Yep. Yeah, so I think you bring up a good point. Community engagement you can do for many different reasons, right? So you can think about it as a need assessment, so listening and learning from other people and helping your project. You can use community engagement as a co-design process, so you're designing with, coming up with ideas together. You can also use it as a way to gather feedback, right? So you might present something and you're making sure that you're gathering insight. In this project, it was primarily looking at that need assessment part of the process, what's actually going on in the community, where are the challenges. And once the RFP comes out, we'll be leading another workshop to support building those proposals. Just potentially providing new opportunities for people to kind of get ideas sparked and maybe build collaboration between individuals who don't know each other. So with that, I wanted to just share a few tips in regards to kind of planning and leading public engagement from our work. My first one really comes around the idea and really remembering that community engagement is a two-way process, right? It is not just about you taking from someone. It's really about finding where there is opportunity to make the experience mutually beneficial for that person. So what are they going to get out of it? And there is nothing wrong, I just want to point out, there's nothing wrong with in research. Sometimes you are taking information, right? You have to interview somebody, you're taking that information that's going to help a project. But a public engagement experience, ideally, is about that two-way dialogue. So with that, my advice is that when you start planning these experiences, before planning out your goals, before deciding what the experience looks like, figure out why your participants want to attend. What are they going to get out of this experience? And it could be, very simply, that they want the notes from the experience that could benefit the work they're doing. It could be that they want to be, we work a lot of politicians, they just want to be seen, okay? We also have a lot of organizations that just want to be kept up to speed, so they don't really want to participate, they just want to hear what other people are talking about. And there's nothing wrong with those different lenses. It's just important to keep that in mind so that you create an experience that is beneficial to all. For example, when we do a lot of work with, we work with SBS, and a lot of their work needs to include networking. Because for organizations that come together, they need that time to make sure it's beneficial. So yes, they're adding to the content, but they also want to network with each other. So, and not making sure to leave that networking experience to the end. So we do it at the beginning and then do the workshop. Secondly, is that it's really important, no matter what experience that you're doing, that you define your boundaries and your ground rules. Have you guys heard of ground rules or norms before? I see some shaking, some no. So those are kind of setting expectations of like, what is good behavior in the room? So we're asking people to step up or step back. You've heard the term of one mic potentially, or all ideas are good ideas, whatever those ground rules are. It is very important to set tone with people about why they're there, what this looks like, and what is going to happen. A lot of people kind of jump in and don't take a lot of time in the beginning of these to really set up what that experience is. The more time you set, the more intentional you look, the more comfortable people will be and be able and willing to participate. So really be clear at the beginning of any experience, no matter how small, no matter if you're having a focus group of 5 people or a workshop of 50, be clear of why you're here. What is it that you're going to be doing? What is the type of experience? What are you not talking about today? Okay, it doesn't mean those issues don't have value, but especially if you're going to work out in the public, people attend events to talk about their personal agenda. So being conscious too, if you're not going to address those, how do people know what that is? And then what are you going to do with the information afterwards? Like, so there's 50 Post-it notes on the wall, what's going to happen with that? Really be clear to everyone what and how you're going to use that. And the last thing, and this is really on the lens of the role of the facilitator. Your role, if you're someone leading or planning these experiences, is to support everyone doing their best thinking. And it's support everyone, not the group, everyone doing their best thinking. I like to think of these 3 kind of rules to help as I look and support people and manage their challenges. One is that you're trying to encourage full participation. Full participation is different for every person. Just because somebody is quiet doesn't mean that they're not attentive and listening, right? Or just somebody, because they're really adding in a lot of details, doesn't mean that they're actually participating and not listening to somebody else. So you have to be conscious of supporting that lens. And again, you're looking at the whole room. You want to be careful not to spend too much time on the quiet person or too much time on the person who is dominating the conversation. So you're trying to support everyone to the best of their ability. Secondly, you're trying to support mutual understanding. The value of public engagement, again, is not just you get to learn from other people, but the opportunity of people engaging with each other. A lot of times you realize in experiences, especially in moments where people are disagreeing, they're actually talking about the same thing, but they've just dug their feet in really deeply for the sake of it. So your role is to support making sure they're listening to each other and kind of building on top of each other. And then lastly, if it's appropriate to your project, you're trying to foster inclusive solutions. Sometimes these experiences are not about solution building, right? But if you are doing that with community building with, you need to be conscious about how do you make sure that everyone feels that their voice was included, and if you narrow, how do you make sure that everyone feels comfortable in that moment? And that comes back down to being really clear about expectations, being clear what happens after an experience. So we lead a lot of workshops with members or citizens of, maybe let's not use the word citizens, residents of the city. and you do a brainstorm with them about a challenge around safety or needs, and then you come back to present something and it's not the same thing, how do you make sure they understand how that decision-making process happened? How do you make sure they understand that their value, their input was still of value as you're carrying forward, even if you don't go with their idea? So that is my thoughts, and I hope that is helpful and insightful.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.